Hi, everyone. It's Will. Tonight, like I do many times, I was able to spend the evening with my 5 grandchildren, 3 little girls and 2 little boys. They are the light of my life. And if you're a grandparent, you know exactly what I feel every time I'm around them. But tonight was a little different because of what happened today. And there are a lot of people asking the question, Will, why are you so upset about what's happening in Ukraine? Why are you so upset about America pulling out of NATO? Why are you so upset about alliances around the world being broken? And as I sat there tonight, the feelings that I had earlier today, not the feelings that made me angry, but the feelings that made me sad, really came to light. And that's what I want to share with you tonight. I want to explain why. And I hope that everybody can just put aside their partisan political feelings for a minute and just listen to what I have to say. Because I think in the end, there are a lot of people my age, even that support Donald Trump, that will sympathize with what I'm saying. And I'm going to ask you, if you would, to watch this video all the way to the end. Just take a few minutes out of your busy life and listen to what I have to say. This man was my grandfather. I'm named after him. His name was William Allen Westmoreland, but everybody called him Al. Al was a great guy. He was a wonderful father, a wonderful husband. He was a successful businessman in Southwest Missouri, where I live. He helped build the city of Springfield, Missouri. He helped pass its first sewage bond that the city ever had. He served as a board member for the city utilities of Springfield. I never got to meet him. Not for all the reasons you might think. Not because he became sick with an illness that took his life. Not because he was involved in some horrible accident. Never got to meet him because of something else that happened. Something that weighed on him over the course of his later life, that in 1961, 7 years before I was born, caused him to take his own life. And the genesis of that was a battle that he fought in World War II. One of the bloodiest battles of the European front. And in that battle, he won a Purple Heart, he won a Bronze Star, but more importantly, he carried home with him the memories of that battle. All of the scars, all of the heinous, violent, horrible things that he saw, he brought home with him. And in 1961, he got in his limousine, drove to the outskirts of Springfield, Missouri, and took his own life because of the demons inside his head from what he experienced in the war. And it wasn't just him. His cousin took his own life. One of his best friends, who was in World War II, took his own life. I never got to meet him because of this, but I'm proud of his legacy. And it's one of the reasons why what happened today in the Oval Office made me sick at my stomach. And why I hope that when you hear my entire story tonight, you'll understand why we have to stand up against what's happening right now. This is a letter my grandfather wrote to my dad when my dad was just a little boy. This is a letter he wrote while he was engaged in this fierce battle. He wrote this one night during a time when he was experiencing the most awful, violent, horrible thing that he would ever experience in his entire life. And you wouldn't know it from the letter. I didn't think I would be here this soon. I'm just doing what I'm called on to do. Every day that passes puts me one day closer to being home to you and Mom. And my grandfather was no different than thousands and hundreds of thousands of other veterans from different countries that went into the Pacific theater and the European theater to fight tyranny, to fight injustice, to fight dictatorship, to give the ultimate sacrifices in many cases to keep these things from coming to our American shore. And it just amazes me that in the middle of that, my grandfather could write this letter to his little boy. These men and women were cut from a different cloth. I don't know if we'll ever see the likes of them again. Imagine in the middle of that, he took that letter and drew this picture on the envelope and sent it to my dad back home in Springfield, Missouri. All while he was experiencing these horrible things. So as I see these alliances being destroyed around the world, I want you to understand that these are not just generic, nameless things that are being broken down, that are being destroyed, that are being ruined. I never met my grandfather because he had the courage to sacrifice in war to build these alliances that exist today, that have been in place since World War II, that have held the democratic countries of Europe and the North Atlantic together through trying times, to face off against the Russians, to face off against the Eastern Bloc, to look tyranny in the eye and push back against it. And if you're my age or older, you sat at the table and you ate dinner at night with the grandfathers and grandmothers of this generation that sacrificed over and over and over again during the Great Depression, during World War II, to build the giant middle class in the 1950s, to make this country a better place to live, to make the world a safer place to live. You sat at the table with them if you're my age or older. And you heard the stories. I listened to my grandfather on my mother's side tell the story about watching a man be unalived right in front of him. I listened to the stories that my great uncles told about battling in the Pacific and in the forests of Germany and the forests of France. And they paid the ultimate price to build these alliances that we're tearing apart. This is personal to me. It should be personal to you too, because you have the same family story that I do if you've lived in this country, even since 1900. Forget about the politics. Forget about Donald Trump. Forget about Democrat. Forget about Republican. This is about tearing down the foundations that these great men and women built. If you can't find this wrong because of the fact that you supported Donald Trump or you're a Republican, then just find it wrong because it goes against everything that your grandfathers and grandmothers and great-grandfathers and great-grandmothers stood for, that they fought against, that they battled against every day. I've said it over and over and over again, and I'm going to continue to say it. Nobody's asking you to admit you're wrong. We're just asking you to admit you were lied to. When you went into the voting booth and you checked the box for Donald Trump, you never agreed to the undermining and destruction of everything these men and women built on their own backs, with their own blood, with their own sacrifice. View it through that lens. View it through the lens of American history and not through the political lens which divides all of us and drives us all apart. My grandfather can't speak for himself anymore, but by God, I can speak for him. And so can you. You can speak for everyone in your family, whether it was in Vietnam or Korea or World War II or in a UN action across this world, or in the battle against terrorism, who gave the ultimate sacrifice to build these alliances that are being destroyed today. Don't admit you were wrong, just admit you were lied to, and do it for them. And do it today. Do it now.